My main achievements are the 7-star and the International Grandmaster. This might sound harsh, but if you're like motivated to do competitive programming just to get good at an interview or stuff, and you're probably like not that interested in it. It's just kind of a step you have to take. And the reason is because I wanted to exhaust every possibility of my coming up with a solution.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Learning Bridge. I hope you guys are doing good and staying safe. So first of all, Merry Christmas to everyone, and I hope Santa has fulfilled your wishes. If not, then soon they will be fulfilled. So probably this could be the last podcast of 2021. So I wanted to bring someone who can motivate to the next level. I mean, this level of motivation. So our today's guest is basically a true achiever. Like at the age of 18, he is 7-star on CodeChef, international grandmaster on CodeForces, and many other awesome achievements. So if you are someone who is really interested in problem solving, coding, programming, and competitive programming, then this podcast is definitely for you. And our guest will share everything, like all his experience, how did he achieve this level at this early stage, how did he prepare resources, proper strategies to crack the coding contest, and so many amazing things. So watch this podcast till the very end, and this is going to be the last podcast for 2021. Make sure you like it, just kill the like button, subscribe to my channel, press the notification icons, and after watching this podcast, let me know in the comment section which advice, which tip or anything which you have heard for the very first time related to competitive programming, so that I'll get to know that you have watched the complete podcast. So mention it in the comment section for sure. And thanks to 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 for building such kind of platform which believes in learning by doing. So if you are someone who want to crack some really good product based companies and struggling with the top notch skills, these skills which are actually demanded in the industry, and you are lacking in some real world project ideas or like any kind of thing which is related to full stack development, backend development, front end development, then this should be the go-to platform for you guys. So link is in the description, go check that out. This is the 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 platform. Free trial is available for everything. First you can observe, then you can take your decision, and the success of their alumni actually speaks for them, that the kind of value Cryo has added in their career. And here are the courses they are offering, like full stack developer, backend developer, fellowship program in software development. So here you can see all the important information, like what kind of tool and tech stack they will be following, what kind of and how many projects you will be working on. So all these details I'll mention here, you can check it out. And this is amazing fellowship program where even you will get the placement guarantee. So you can use the link which is in the description. It will help you to get extra discount along with the scholarship. Just check out the 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 platform and shape your career beautifully. All right, so thank you so much, Colin, for joining my podcast, and I'm really thankful to you for accepting my invite, because your experience in the competitive programming will help a lot to the student community. And guys who don't know about the Colin, he's 7-star on CodeChef and international grandmaster on CodeForces. We can learn a lot from him. But it would be great, Colin, if you can just introduce yourself to my audience.
Sure. As has been said, I'm Colin. I've been doing this for over 3 years with mixed opinions about it. My main achievements are the 7-star and the International Grandmaster. Those are like the most public ones. Currently, I am a first year in college. So I did most of my training in high school throughout 10th to 12th grade.
I mean, you are just in college and you have achieved so much, right, in the competitive programming world.
The achievements of people when they're young is sort of like overinflated, because it is naturally easier to learn something when you're young.
Yeah.
So like the prodigies and stuff are so good just because they're young, and it's easier that way. So I would say my main advantage was the fact that I started in high school, because I'm naturally just able to learn stuff earlier.
Within your high school, you achieved these many things. So when did you first hear about the competitive programming, right? Who introduced you into the competitive programming world? And like, when did you attempt your first ever competitive programming contest?
Right. It was kind of just a casual mention of it from a friend. Mm-hmm. I started with this competition called the 𝗖𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, which is kind of just a huge national tournament for high schoolers.
Okay.
And so my friends just casually talked about it. It was at a birthday party, and they were like, "Hey, you doing this?" And I was like, "Hey, what is this?" And then I looked it up, and then it was like, "Hey, this seems kind of cool." And then I started to like it. And then that's how I got into it. It was very casual. I just sort of heard of it, and then...
And what was your age at that time, and in which like standard you were at that time?
10th grade or 10th standard, I guess.
Okay.
And I was 16, I think, 15 or 16.
Okay. And what's your current age?
I'm 18 right now, 18 and a half.
Wow, 18 and a half. Nice. Okay, that was the first step into the competitive programming. But when did you hear about these platforms, right? The CodeChef and CodeForces. So how did you start your contest journey with these platforms?
I don't exactly remember how I heard about CodeForces. I know 𝗖𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 has some links to other websites, and I probably checked that at one point and looked at CodeForces out of curiosity. But I only started to do those contests about 1 or 2 months after I finished with 𝗖𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 for a bit.
Okay.
Ultimately, it was just more out of curiosity. I saw the link once, and it was another, hey, this seems kind of cool thing.
So how's the coding culture in US, right, in your country itself? Like, I mean, students start during their schooling itself, or they also get to know about these things in their graduation or something?
I think it's very rare in high school. It's either rare or it's at a very basic level. Like, the only course offered in high school is like an introduction to Java, basically.
Okay.
And college, people mostly start throughout college, and to get into competitive programming in high school, like, they don't talk about it in schools. They don't, like, it's not nearly as blown up as math competitions are, where you have like hundreds of people doing it from every school. I think many people also just hear about it from friends, or they look online and they find stuff about it. And yeah, it's fairly rare in high school, and in college it's a lot more common, I think, although I actually don't know many people who are doing it at my own college. So I'm kind of lonely.
Now you are like the international grandmaster on CodeForces, 7-star on CodeChef, and probably many other achievements on different platforms, which I don't know. So the question arises here, what does it take to reach this level, right? Because somebody can start computer programming, let's say, I'm not talking about aspiring students, if he or she starts it in first year of college or second year of college or any time. So what kind of efforts or what kind of you can say dedication it needs from someone to reach at this level?
I think getting to this level is pretty rare. Like, you have to be really, really into it to get here. If you're, this might sound harsh, but if you're like motivated to do competitive programming just to get good at an interview or stuff, then you're probably like not that interested in it. It's just kind of a step you have to take. So you can get fairly far by being motivated by something else, like wanting to get a job. But if you want to reach like the super high, like mega elite level, whatever that may be, you have to be like totally interested in it. And that's where most of my motivation came from, because there wasn't any motivation other than this is kind of fun. And I think that's the most important part. But also, once you have that, like once you have the motivation, it does also take a lot of time. Like in the beginning, I was going fully into it and like putting many hours a day, like maybe 5 to 7 or something on weekends and stuff like that. It takes a good source of motivation and a lot of time.
The final conclusion from your side, like if you are just into computer programming because of the like job perspective and something, probably you won't be motivated enough to reach at this level, is it?
I would agree. Although I would say it's still possible to reach to get good at interviews or to reach whatever goal you're doing. And you can reach a fairly decent level with that, like maybe candidate master or like master or something around that. And 4 to 5 to 6 stars, I'm not sure the exact translation on CodeChef, but you can get pretty good. I just don't think you can be at the top without having the motivation.
Yeah. How did you improve your programming skills, like logical thinking and problem solving skills? Because this is the very basic challenge, I would say, when somebody starts with programming and they used to complain like, hey, I'm not able to build a logic. Just even think for a simple array problem, right? How to think in a out of box way that, okay, that's how I can probably solve this problem. Not let's say even out of the box solution, but at least the decent approach, right? Let's say, oh, how I can use the binary search in order to solve this problem. So like, how did you improve these kind of logical thinking, problem solving related things? And like, if you have followed some specific resources to improve it, that would be great if you can share with my audience.
I guess to start with programming, because that's sort of the most fundamental part, it was a lot of hands-on learning, which is sort of how I learned a lot of programming languages. I sort of said, there's something I want to do with a program. How do I do this? And then I just looked up a bunch of parts of a program. And through solving a particular problem, I would further understand what I could do with a programming language, like how powerful it was, what the tools I had were. The very basic programming skills I sort of learned, I guess, from school, like from that introduction to Java class I mentioned before. And then from there, I sort of learned C++ through this method of just hands-on learning. In terms of the other things like logical thinking, problem-solving skills, most of it came from just like really deep diving into a problem. I've probably mentioned before, not here, but in other places, I would often not finish with a problem until I solved it or until I was completely tired of it, which would usually take like hours or days. And the reason is because I wanted to exhaust every possibility of my coming up with the solution. I wanted to search every possible pattern of solution that I knew before, and if none of those applied, then I would be fairly certain that it was something I didn't know. So in part, because I was trying to think about a problem in a lot of different angles. And so just doing that for a lot of time will help with your logical thinking. And just going at a problem and also teaching yourself to not be stuck on one thing. Because oftentimes you're going to have something, it's not going to work, and then you have to just tell yourself it's not going to work and move on to some other idea. And that is also a huge part of logical thinking. Because you usually don't get the right idea the first time. You have to like try a bunch of different things. So that was pretty important. It was also about pattern matching, kind of, to figure out which concepts applied. Sometimes it would be kind of clear, because it would be like, this is similar to another binary search problem I did before. And if I didn't know what binary search was, I would look at a few problems and figure out like, how does this apply? Why is this relevant? And then later on, I could figure out that this problem kind of looks similar. And then eventually, I would be really good at identifying them because I knew that pattern. The main thing I used was a site called 𝗖𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 Training, which is essentially, it's a practice site that's divided into a bunch of sections. And each section has a few problems and also an explanation on some topic most of the time. And you can't move on to another section until you finish the previous section, which sort of fits my model of how I was training for a long time on certain problems, because you kind of can't give up. There are no like tutorials to problems. So basically you just have to do it until you figure it out. I like this model just because it forces you to actually like get really deep into a problem.
Yeah.
I think it's really useful. And also it had explanations for some like basic topics that could be helpful in understanding like algorithms and stuff. So it was just sort of all in one. I think it was good for that sense.
Cool. So like when you attempt any coding contest, be it the CodeForces, CodeChef, or any other platform, then what kind of strategy do you follow to finish the entire contest, right? How do you approach for questions different, even picking up the right question and to solve it within a right time frame? If you can even share your strategy, that would be really beneficial.
Actually, in general, it can be mathematically proven that the best strategy for any contest is to solve in order of difficulty, regardless of what the point values are. Because if you can solve a low point value much faster than a high point value harder problem, then it will still be better. So the first things first, just do it in order of difficulty. And when I get stuck is the more interesting part, because that's when I've like done all the problems that are easy for me and now like sort of the real contest begins. Then I usually spend a while on the easiest unsolved problem. Maybe like 30 minutes to an hour, or until I get really tired of the problem, which is around that time frame. And then sometimes I will jump ahead to another problem, unless I feel like I'm actually making progress on the previous one. And then when I jump ahead to another problem, I usually devote fully to that one. So basically at worst, I'll try and tackle 2 problems at a time, because the other ones will likely be harder, and so there'll be less of a chance of me being able to solve them. And if the second problem fails, then it's sort of hard. And at that point, I usually try and jump between the 2 problems. That's sort of the best thing I think I can do. And just try and get any sort of idea for either of them. I don't know how frequently I switch, maybe every like 10, 15 minutes or shorter or longer, I don't know. And I don't think it matters that much.
This is interesting, right? In parallel, you are into like 2 problems, solving them parallel. How do you actually do it?
It's kind of, I don't think it's like that in parallel, because I sort of have the type of brain to just focus really hard on one thing. So to switch between problems, I sort of have to like mentally give up on the other one for a bit and then direct all my focus towards the other one. I don't think I'm that good at having like background processes in my head that's just like evaluating the other problem and suddenly the solution will just pop up. Like that's really rare. I think it's only happened once, but most of the time I direct all my attention toward one of the problems and then like bounce from one to the other when I need to.
Awesome. Colin, like I have like seen your videos, where you type in a crazy speed, right? I have seen like you have predefined template probably where you have some aliases like created and some function modules created, right? And I'm not sure why is it for, but does it help to manage time during the coding contest What's the thought behind it? I'm not sure.
I think it's more of like a sanity thing. Like the main template I use is defining the type long to just be LL, which is like an acronym, because I use longs for every variable, and if I had to type out 9 characters instead of 2, like every single time I want a new variable, it would be really annoying.
Correct.
And so I just got really fed up with doing that, and so I just decided to make it shorter. That was mainly the rationale, just like convenience. I don't think it helps that much with speed, like maybe a little bit if you're like going for an easy problem where you like finish the thought like that and then it's mostly just type out the solution. It can help a little bit with that, but mostly it's just for convenience. It's just the things that I'm tired of typing out fully and I want to shorten a little bit.
And how about improving typing speed? Like, how did you even actually improve it?
When we learned typing in school, I completely ignored what they were teaching me, and I developed my own weird, like, 5-finger typing style or something. And mostly I did that just by doing it. Because we had a lot of assignments that involved typing and stuff in school, so I would gradually get better. And it was sort of my own intuitive style, so it sort of just made sense to me. And so through practice, I could get, like, better intuition of, like, where the keys were and how my fingers would move between certain things. I think ultimately it just comes down to just doing a bunch of typing practice. Especially in code, if you type code a lot, you will be faster at typing code than other things. I want to make the same point about like IDEs. Like for example, like people spend. I've seen so many questions on like what's like the best one to use, or like which one's the best, and it really doesn't matter. Like I've been using, do you know Replit? It's like an online coding site that like crashes every 5 minutes or something. I use that site to get to Grandmaster, which is absurd and really dumb because sometimes the site would just go down and it would like delete all my code and I would just start from scratch. That was pretty rare, but it had all these issues and it was really annoying to use, and I still used it to get all the way to red. So the whole thing was just sort of to prove a point that it really doesn't matter, like all the little things you do. It's really just get something you're comfortable with and you'll make it work.
Let's say any random person come to you or give you a problem to solve. So what's the most ideal way to solve any like coding problem or any problem solving related thing?
The first thing to do is understand it. Misreading a problem is probably my most like common mistake. So I would say don't try to be me or don't just speed run through the statement and try to like understand it like as fast as possible. I would say go for understanding and make sure you completely understand it. Even like check your interpretation on the sample cases and stuff like that, just to totally make sure it's right. Because otherwise you're going to be screwed out of like minutes or hours, and you'll be solving the wrong problem. And then once you do that, the first thing I do is make sure it's not something I've seen before. Because if it is, then I can look at that problem and it'll be a lot easier because I've already sort of thought about that idea. And then if it isn't, then the problem actually starts. The natural way to think about a problem is like when you read it, sometimes you'll get like a bunch of ideas or something. Based on intuition, some of them will look good, some of them won't, and you'll probably spend time thinking about like the idea that looks best in your head. Then you sort of focus more on that. When you're looking into that idea, then maybe that idea has some details to it, like some specific parts of the problem that are relevant. And so you have to spend more time working that out. Sometimes you'll hit a dead end, and that's when you have to like backtrack, and you have to get out of that headspace of like thinking about that idea and try something else. And if you hit a dead end, well, you'll know because you'll spend a while and you'll realize that just nothing is working, like this isn't going anywhere. And you'll succeed only if you can change it into something that you know how to solve. Like for example, maybe you can reduce it to something that like requires binary search or something. And maybe it's not obvious. And sometimes, in other cases, you can sort of force it to happen. If you know that you're not good at a topic, and it's like something you probably won't recognize, you can try to force it to happen. You can, for example, keep a list of like the topics that you don't think of that much, and you can try and see, like, ask the specific question, can I solve this with binary search somehow? Is there something I can binary search on? Can it be relevant anywhere? Is there any aspect of the problem where this can be helpful? So that's another way to think of ideas when they don't come naturally.
If someone wants to start with competitive programming, then what kind of baby steps he or she should follow? And why I'm asking these questions, because in the beginning, right, when someone starts with competitive programming, it can be demotivating, right? I'm not sure if it was demotivating for you, because in the beginning when like someone is not able to solve the contest or is not able to solve the coding problems, then they feel demotivated. So what do you think? What's the proper baby steps they should follow?
I think this is a really important question. For one, in terms of demotivation, I guess don't come in with that high expectations. Like, it's overwhelmingly likely that you're going to start out just sucking at it, and you're going to suck for a while, and you'll sort of see results like over time. But in the beginning, results don't come quickly. It's a long process. Like, people call it a marathon instead of a sprint. I guess that's a good quote. If you look at like the day by day, you're not going to see much change because it's like incremental. You get a little bit of improvement each day, and if you look like a year back, you'll probably be better. But if you look like a day back, you're not going to notice a difference. In terms of like actually starting, I think the most important thing to do, understand how to learn things. I think this is an issue because some education systems, I've heard a lot of anecdotes about India in particular, are like really bad in terms of teaching you how to problem solve. I can't speak directly, but I've heard it's like a lot of memorization, a lot of like do it their way and no other way and stuff like that. That's really, really bad. I cannot emphasize how bad that is because it's like the whole point of learning to problem solve is you're supposed to do it your way in the way that you understand best, and you're supposed to learn things your way. So whenever you come across some topic, for example, what you should be doing is you should be taking in the information you get and then sort of breaking it down in your own mind into pieces that you can understand, instead of trying to force yourself to understand someone else's interpretation, because your interpretation is going to be the best. And when you're encountering some problem, like, do the same thing. I think this is the worst culprit. Don't like ask someone to just fix your solution and then leave it at that. I think people do that a lot. Actually, I know people do that a lot. I've seen it a lot. People will ask someone or like post a blog on CodeForces, for example, asking why their thing is wrong, and then someone will tell them, and they'll be like, cool, and then they'll forget about it. And they don't do anything to understand, like, they can understand what was wrong about their program, but the more important thing is why they made that mistake in the first place. Like, what did they miss? Or, like, what was the problem with their thinking? You have to actually learn from your mistakes. It's not enough to just say, okay, I made that mistake, let's not do this again in the future. The point is to, well, not repeating yourself is a good goal, but also, like, understanding why something happened, why a mistake happened, and something like that. And if you fail to solve a problem, don't just read the editorial and say, okay, well, this is how I do it, I'll remember that next time. You gotta think about, like, why did you fail to solve the problem in the first place? What did you miss? If it's a topic that you knew and you didn't think of it for some reason, why didn't you think of it? Or if it's something you didn't know, that's fine, you can learn that and then come back and try to do it again. But if it's something you think you could have done, why couldn't you do it? And if it's something you didn't do, what can you learn to make sure that you're able to do it in the future? And I think the attitude is really important.
Yeah.
It's not, people will give advice and tell you to just like practice. And it's like, I mean, it's correct advice because that's ultimately what it comes down to. But it's overlooking the attitude problems that are like underlying and they're screwing people over. Yeah. So you should practice, but you should also like practice the right way.
Cool. Let's wrap up this session with one last final question, Colin, and that's probably, I'm not sure if you are obsessed with any of the dream companies, but if there is anything what's your dream company? And also the add-on would be like how much these ratings, right? The stars or the candidate master profile, international grandmaster profiles. So do these kind of ratings like help to get interview calls from the top tech firms, or it's just a myth?
Admittedly, I haven't done that much research into like what companies there are and what seems cool. Like, ideally, it would be cool to just get like a decently paying software job. I don't particularly care where, just like something. That's ultimately my goal.
No, like so Google, Facebook.
It would be nice because they're like big companies, good for reputation, stuff like that. But it's not like necessary. I'd be fine without them. So I sort of have my my aims low currently, and then maybe later on, like eventually, I'll be more interested in doing stuff like that. But just initially, not yet, I guess. And about the ratings, admittedly, because I've never done an interview, my knowledge might be total garbage on this. But I can say what I've heard from like people on CodeForces. CodeForces is a bit different because, again, a lot of their problems are a lot of like thinking and stuff like that, and interview problems are, it's more algorithm based and more optimizing things like time and space complexity, which isn't something you see that often in competitive programming. Because the competitive programming like paradigm is find something that passes. And the interview is like find the best thing. Yeah, optimizing like theoretical complexity and stuff like that. Even if it's not entirely practical, because for example, hash maps aren't really O of 1. They can be like way worse. But stuff like that. So it's like, it will help to have problem solving skills from any competitive programming site, but at the same time, like it's better to practice interview problems directly instead of doing competitive programming if that's your only goal.
Cool.
Okay, I don't know about rating specifically. I have heard of some companies like literally asking for CodeChef profiles like in their applications. I'm not sure how prevalent that is, but I feel like it's happened before. So I guess I would say like do a little bit, just have a little bit of experience with competitive programming sites, be familiar with them if that's really your goal. But again, I don't entirely know because I'm not that involved in the job scene yet.
Knowledge you have shared with my audience, Colin, that was fantastic. And I hope my audience will learn from your experience. And guys, if you haven't followed his channel yet, I'll put the link in the description. He used to create amazing content for the like competitive programming. Just go and subscribe. So yeah, you will be seeing you will be having a great time there. You will learn a lot from this guy. So yeah, from my side and from my audience side, a big thanks, Colin. You are doing great stuff, and it was really amazing to have you on my channel.
Thank you too for having me. This was interesting to sort of like reflect on stuff.
So that's what I had for you guys in this podcast. So if you liked it, then make sure to give a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, press the notification icon. I will see you guys in the next weekend, probably in the next year, with amazing podcasts. So till then, just stay safe, stay home, take care of yourself, enjoy this year and enjoy the new year with your family and loved ones. Spread love and positivity.